in search of a solution to the migration crisis. More than 40 heads of state from Europe and Africa gathered in Malta's capital to work towards a comprehensive plan. Some 150,000 migrants and refugees have entered Europe from North Africa this year alone. But there have also been more than 3,400 deaths in the Mediterranean, and the crisis has left Europe struggling to formulate a coherent policy.
The only way we can manage migration is by working together. Our purpose today is to agree a joint approach and concrete steps so that migration becomes fruitful exchange between our peoples.
Europe is promising more development aid to African countries with the aim of tackling the economic problems that have caused many people to flee. In return, the EU wants greater cooperation from African countries and to take back failed asylum seekers.
Die Verabschiedung eines Aktions.
The meeting is about agreeing on an action plan. This action plan will fight illegal immigration, and it will do more for legal possibilities to work in Europe. At the same time, it will increase development aid, but also require African heads of government to deal with their civil societies and their citizens in a way where the continent's young people have a chance.
Mit ihren Zivilgesellschaften, mit ihren Bürgerinnen und Bürgern.
There was criticism too for the European countries that have built border fences in an attempt to keep the migrants and refugees out.
The problem that we are facing today is in part because some countries in Europe have taken a fortress approach. There is no part of the world that can be a fortress. We shall create conditions in Africa where our young people, men and women, will migrate out of choice and not out of desperation.
This summit comes as a further 14 migrants died while attempting to cross the Mediterranean. It's a timely reminder as to the humanitarian crisis that continues to unfold and a further incentive for the leaders to find a workable solution. Dan Williams, CCTV, Malta.
Now, on Wednesday night, residents of Calais gathered in support of local law enforcement after 3 straight nights of clashes between police and migrants in the northern French town. Calais has long been an immigration flashpoint, but in the past year has become part of a wider pan-European crisis, with states struggling to agree on how to handle inflows of people fleeing conflict or poverty in the Middle East and Africa. Now, the European Union has offered African states a range of aid, as well as easier visa access and lower costs for migrants sending cash home in return for help to curb migration into the EU, including by taking back illegal immigrants.
We shut ourselves in the house because there were more than 200 people outside fighting with the security forces. We made some room for them to leave, but you know, we can't really say much because they were really very nasty, very aggressive. In any case, I hope they do something to make them leave. I don't think they will, but I hope that at least they'll increase security measures to keep them from coming here or to keep them in their camp. Because it's becoming unbearable, unlivable. We killed ourselves by working our whole lives to have a home, and we were left in peace before the camp existed. But now we live in homes that are completely worthless. What are we supposed to do now?
Well, let's get the latest now on the summit taking place in Malta. We're joined by CCTV's Dan Williams, who is live for us there in Malta. Dan, of course, more than 60 leaders from Europe and Africa at this meeting, and some suggesting that we will see a lot of policy divisions being exposed. But of course, what are the key issues that these countries will be looking to find consensus on before the summit concludes?
Yes, you're absolutely right. We're now into the second day of this, and already today we've had the signing in of this trust agreement that's worth some 1.8 billion euros. It's about 1.9 billion US dollars, and that has been signed in, as I say, early this morning. Now, all of the leaders are now locked in further discussions as they discuss this potential action plan, of which I've got a draft copy here. And it is through this action plan where it details not just what to do with this development aid, but also other ways in which perhaps can bring about greater legal migration between Africa and Europe, as well as, and this is more from the European point of view, putting in place better structures and better cooperation between Africa and Europe in terms of cutting back on irregular migration, preventing human trafficking and smuggling. And those certainly the key points to emerge from this action plan, as well as putting in place better cooperation in terms of sending back those failed asylum seekers back to their country of origin. That's currently taking place now. A little later on as well, there's also, it has to be said, an EU emergency summit in which the EU leaders will meet once again in order to discuss the eastern border, that borders Turkey and Syria, of course, which has seen some 650,000 refugees and migrants enter into Europe this year alone, and that for much of Europe is the key concern.
Well, as you say there, Dan, this aid fund will be key in fostering cooperation between Europe and Africa as far as the crisis is concerned. But what are African leaders themselves saying about the role they can play to help in tackling the migrant crisis?
Yeah, on the whole, the various African leaders here have been very positive about these talks, about these discussions that involve obviously these two continents, and it's very much about trying to come up with this comprehensive plan. It has to be remembered that this summit is born out of the humanitarian crisis and the desperate situation of 6 months ago when a boat sank off the Libyan coast, killing some 800 people on board. This is the reason as to why these talks are here in the first place, and certainly it seems as though from this action plan, if signed off, then it brings about this idea of attempting to bring about greater governance, creating more possibilities across the African continent. That seemingly is the key message to emerge, and certainly most of the African leadership is very much that's very much appealing to them so far. But it has to be said, we've heard from Macky Sall, the Senegalese president, and he's already said that this trust fund is already by no means enough, 1.8 billion euros. It was supposed to be matched as well by the rest of the European nations. This is money that's been put up by the European Commission, and it so far hasn't been matched in any way. So therefore, if they want to bring about a lasting solution to this process, they're saying that more money needs to be put up in order to find that solution.
All right, we'll leave it there. Dan Williams live for us in Malta at that all-important migration summit.